Hi, my name is Leah Day, and welcome to this video for leahday.com. Today I'm going to show you some basics of walking foot style machine quilting. I've shared hundreds of videos over the years about free motion quilting, and now I'm trying out walking foot quilting. It's a lot of fun, it's really easy because your machine does most of the work for you. So what are the major things that you want to know about walking foot quilting? What is it that is maybe stopping you from giving this a try? Or what are the major questions that you have about applying it to your quilts? I'd really like to hear from you and make this a fun, interactive video experience. I'm going to be stitching out a lot of different designs in a cool t-shirt quilt project that I've been working on. You can find all of the videos for this t-shirt quilt project right here at leahday.com. I'm using a combination actually of walking foot style quilting and free motion quilting for these blocks, but you're going to learn loads about all kinds of different skills and designs that you can stitch even on a home sewing machine. So without further ado, let's get on the machine and learn the basics of walking foot style quilting together. So the first thing I want to cover is stitching in the ditch, and that's really one of the most common things used for a walking foot and walking foot style quilting. So I'm right here working in this ditch of a t-shirt block, and I'm just going to take it slowly, trying to stitch right in that seam line. And this was a t-shirt block where the seam was pressed to one side, so I'm just trying to stay consistently on that one side all the way down. Now as for the settings on my machine, I've set my stitch length to 1.5 millimeters. I like a small stitch like that. I think it looks really good. But you can play with this, definitely. The bigger the stitch length, obviously the wider your stitches are going to be, but the more fabric you're going to be kind of pushing through the machine at any given time. Okay, here's one thing about the style of quilting that I'm taking from free motion, and that is less thread breaks is better. And this was something that I didn't realize when I first did walking foot quilting many years ago, and that was you can avoid thread breaks by simply stitching along the edge of something or travel stitching to get where you need to go. So now I've got these marked lines, and I'm going to stitch along this marked line, just being careful to keep that needle going right in that line. And I'm not really staring at my needle, I'm staring at the space before my needle, making sure that the quilt is in a good alignment. And notice kind of the slow speed. I'm walking, I'm not running. I can probably go a little faster here, but walking foot style quilting is fairly slow. Now in this spot right here, I have, this is the center of my t-shirt, and I have this word's Ohio State, and I have outline quilted this with a walking foot, and I want to travel against that line and get to the next line. So I'm going to very carefully take a few stitches and get right on the line that's outline quilting. And it's okay if you overshoot it. If you accidentally overshoot it, just use your hand wheel to back up that last stitch, rotate it backwards away from you, and then drop it down in the machine, and you're right on that previous line of stitching. Zoom in so you can really see. And what I love about walking foot quilting is you can get the travel stitching absolutely dead on perfect. Right on top of those previous stitches, get right next to that line that you've marked and ready to go, and then stitch on down. So honestly, it's kind of eye-opening to me just how much easier this is with a walking foot than it can feel in free motion. There's definitely benefits to both styles of quilting, but I'd say that I'm certainly doing this a lot faster than I did many years ago by not breaking thread so often, by not breaking thread basically with every line. I'm using those edges and I'm using those previous lines of quilting to travel stitch against, and that's really helpful. Now in this situation, I'm going to come down and again bump up against that Ohio State area, and I don't really have a way to get out. So what I'm going to do, I did this on the opposite side, I'm going to pick two lines and stitch right through the middle. I'm going to show you how to space lines out even if you haven't marked it. So I've stitched down into that area and I'm spacing out. I'm looking at the space between two lines. I really don't want to have to grab my marking pencil in this case, simply because my foot's already here. It's already kind of in the middle of that area. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to back up my needle again, take it out of the quilt, and just shift to left and right until I feel like the two blades of my walking foot are centered up just right against those two lines. It's one of those things that it might not be exactly perfect, but it's certainly pretty darn close, and I didn't have to break thread, move the quilt, mark it, bring it back in, all of that stuff, which is time consuming and a little boring too. So that's another way to speed up, not having to mark the lines, just using the blades of the walking foot to guide you to making that perfectly spaced out stitch. So one thing you might be wondering about is your stops and starts, and how I get started machine quilting any style, whether it's walking foot style or free motion, is I always pull my bobbin thread up to the surface of the quilt. You do that by rotating your hand wheel towards you all the way around and bring the needle all the way up and until it starts to want to drop back down again. That means that the top thread has made a full rotation all the way through the bobbin area. Then you give that top thread a tug and either a loop or a little thread will pop up to the surface. That's your bobbin thread. Take both of them and tuck them under the foot. And then you're ready to get started stitching. When you get done at the end, lift your needle up. And I'm just going to rip out this little section. I just really want you to see how to start and stop your threads. When you stop, rotate your needle all the way up, lift your presser foot and kind of push your quilt away. And then if you have one, hit a thread cutter or just cut your thread tails. And that's going to leave nice long thread tails, which you can hide in the middle layer of your quilt. So both the beginning thread tails and the ending thread tails are nice and long. And you can find another video on tying off your thread tails and hiding them securely in the middle layer of your quilt at leahday.com. So that's it for learning how to machine quilt with your walking foot. As you can see, you can do a lot of things with your walking foot. You can stitch in the ditch, you can stitch straight lines, and you can also kind of use that walking foot to space out lines that you haven't marked. We're going to be exploring a lot more creative things that you can do with your walking foot, a lot more than straight lines, hopefully, in the future videos at leahday.com. So definitely click here, check out leahday.com, and see all of the awesome walking foot videos we have to offer. Until next time, let's go quilt.